Welcome to an episode of Behind the Scenes, a weekly program unveiling the biggest political developments in Somali politics. I'm Sultan Mohammed, your host and co-producer here on Horfed Media alongside Suleiman Hashi. On this week's program, we take a closer look at how former President Mohammed Abdullahi Farmajo lost the vote and the victory of President Hassan Sheikh Mahmud. We'll also be looking at Hassan Sheikh Mahmud's most recent appointments, as well as the changing political dynamic Somalia is facing. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share, and film similar content. Do subscribe to Horfed Media. You can also subscribe to Horfed Media Company's second channel known as Horfed TV, where you can find exclusive programs such as Mahahi Saleh, among others. And last but not least, do follow myself, Sultan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Yasin Abdi, and the wider Horfed Media team on our social media platforms that should appear on the screen any moment. Let's get straight into it. It has been a week since the ocean blue flag with the white bright star was ceremonially and peacefully exchanged between two Somali leaders. It was 55 years ago when the first Somali president Aden Abdullah Isman became the first African leader to democratically transfer power to his successor Abdurrashid Ali Sharmake in 1967. Ironically, the incumbent president Mohammed Abdullahi Farmajo passed the key to the presidency to the same president that passed him the key 5 years ago in 2017, Hassan Sheikh Mahmud. The ceremony held for both presidents was an astounding one that demonstrates, despite the major setbacks over the last year, Somalia is moving in the right direction, to say the least. However, many Somalis were disappointed by not only the reality that Somali elections were delayed by over a year, but also the simple fact that the election was not a direct election. In other words, one person, one vote. The reality is that both previous Mahmud presidency and the Farmajo administration both failed to hold direct elections in Somalia, despite the provisional constitution of Somalia guaranteeing this fundamental democratic right for every Somali citizen since 2000. The reason as to how and why are never ending. A various number of hurdles and problems in Somalia, with the fundamental being security, as well as the failure by federal member states and the federal government in correctly implementing federalism. This directly stems from the limited development on the constitution and federal law that defines more accurately the direct boundaries between the federal and state level authorities. This is further undermined by a Supreme Court that lacks the judicial power to implement its own ruling. The combination of all these factors has created an environment of bumping heads as leaders push for vested interests, playing a political game with very limited rules. Irrespective, within the framework accepted by Somali leaders, Hassan Sheikh Mahmud appeared victorious, which came as a surprise to some and unexpected results to others. So how did Hassan Sheikh Mahmud exactly defeat Mohammed Abdullahi Farmajo? One thing Hassan Sheikh Mahmud succeeded in and Farmajo failed is in the building of key close political allies with what can be understood as a political party of some sort. Sure, Farmajo had large support amongst the Somali people, but the reality is that he didn't replicate that support among Somali politicians. There were two major ways Farmajo could have gained support, for example. One could be development of key relations with other politicians that have similar vision to create a group over his 5-year reign while he was president. Or build bridges with some opposition politicians to gain more backing outside the political party of Nawad Inolol. See, Hassan Sheikh Mahmud is a politician that has been in the game for a very long time, having already served as president for 4 years and spending 5 long years in Somalia as opposition. He built a team around him of loyal MPs and senators. The UPD party was one of the first parties in Somalia since the civil war. This network around Hassan Sheikh Mahmud enabled him, alongside his coalition with other opposition figures, to not also make him a target, but rather gave him allies against Farmajo. The combination of this essentially enabled Hassan Sheikh Mahmud to garner the support needed to win against Farmajo. So what are the changing political dynamics in Somali politics? You see, the issue with Hassan Sheikh Mahmud's UPD party is that it lacks an ideology or key sets of principles adhered by all members. Essentially, MPs and senators that are members of UPD do not stand on a party manifesto, but rather on groups of close friends and political allies. They rather also stand on their own political manifestos, and as a result, it is seen more as a coalition of friends rather than a political party with key principles and ideologies, much like, for example, the Labour Party in the UK or the Conservative Party, where members join based on a set number of beliefs rather than associations through friendships or history. In other words, it would be difficult to compete in a one-person, one-vote election dynamic, as members do not all stand for the same particular manifesto. Nevertheless, one can look at the nature and the climate created by the 4.5 system and the indirect elections that Somalia has been doing for the last 15 years that have resulted in this culture of politics as political candidates seek the validation from their clan rather than society or people as a whole. Consequently, this would not require a manifesto as one would envision in a democratic election, in a democratic society, for instance. Nevertheless, what one can see is a political dynamic shifting from independent politicians seeking jobs to groups of what can be described as pre-political party systems of some sort. One side, we actually see an actual opposition, which has been really needed in Somalia before, which now known as Namadi Nolol, and on the other side, we see the UPD, a major group with political influence in Somalia, as well as having support within the Somali population. So let's take a look at the government that Hassan Sheikh has been building. What appointment has he made so far? Some analysts have pointed out that Hassan Sheikh Mahmud has made appointments that are based on loyalty and friendship, and much of the appointments have been key allies during the last 5 years of his opposition. So, who has he appointed exactly? Hassan Sheikh Mahmud has been appointed as the Chief of Staff of the Presidency. Hassan Sheikh Mahmud hails from the southwest state of Somalia, and he's been a critic of Left presidency, particularly during the federal election of this year. Mohammed Amin has been appointed the Deputy Chief of Staff. Amin previously served as a senator, having been the chairman of the Senate Defense and Security Committee. Hassan Sheikh Ali Ma'alin has been appointed as the National Security Advisor. Ali previously held the role during the first presidency of Hassan Sheikh Mahmud, and he's also the founder of Hiral Institute, a security think tank based in Somalia. Hassan Adam has been appointed as the President's Economic Advisor. Hassan is a newcomer but has links to the Hassan Sheikh circle. The President has also appointed Ibrahim Suleiman as his legal affairs advisor, and Zakaria Hassan Ali as his advisor on parliamentary relations. Aside from his own advisors, President Hassan Sheikh Mahmud has appointed the 2022 presidential candidate Abdurrahman Abdushakur as the presidential special envoy for drought. And controversially, he's appointed prominent UPD member and MP Mahad Salad as head of the Somali National and Intelligence Agency, also known as NISA. If you look at this from an objective viewpoint, while many have criticized these appointments, it does not come as a surprise because the president is bound to appoint individuals that have remained loyal to him, that he trusts over individuals he might not know. Ultimately, the appointments so far are of officials that have stuck by Hassan Sheikh both during his first presidency between 2012 and 2017 and his time in opposition the last 5 years. If Farmajo were to become president, for instance, he would also appoint officials that were loyal and close to him within his inner circle of political advisors too. It's just the reality of politics and how Somalia currently is. Of course, I believe Hassan Sheikh should appoint on the basis of merit, but in the reality of Somalia's politics where backstabbing is a common occurrence, it is understandable as to why Hassan Sheikh took these actions. So what next for Hassan Sheikh Mahmud? The president must build a government that is diverse and represents all political thoughts in Somalia. It cannot exclude a large section of society. This would increase the political opposition to the president, and much like Farmajo, he would face during the latter years of his presidency. The president must take and make political friends, compromise, and listen to other sides. He must accept that Somalia has to be governed equally for it to be peace and for there to be prosperity rather than one-sided politics that supports his way of thought or supports his allies. It's now critical more than ever for Hassan Sheikh Mahmud to work on the delivery of one person, one vote. For years, UPD led by Hassan Sheikh Mahmud have criticized the Farmajo administration for its failings on the election, among other things. And one has to remember that Hassan Sheikh Mahmud previously served as president between 2012 and 2017, and he delivered in direct elections. Farmajo, who was supposed to deliver this election as direct elections, also failed to do so. And now that Hassan Sheikh has another opportunity and is somebody who's serving his second term as president, the pressure on him is much higher than ever before to deliver this, and the Somali people have been yearning for this opportunity for a very, very long time. This is the chance for the opposition to live up to all the announcements and the words and the criticism that they have been speaking for the last 2 years. Then a comparison can be made between the current government and its allies and the opposition by the public, who then decide the next Somali government by 2026 on the ballot box.